So you've decided it's time for a move, but you're not sure if now's the right time to sell or if you should rent the property for a period of time and then sell it into the future. Today I want to talk about some considerations that you really should be making before you decide to sell the property today or rent it, hold on to it and sell it into the future. So let's jump into it. This is a really common question that I'm hearing all the time at the moment is, should we sell now or should we hold on to it, rent it out for a little bit and then sell it into the future? Now this is a situation you might find yourself in if you're moving interstate, you're looking to upgrade, you've found a home that you've just fallen in love with, or maybe you're looking at downsizing. So you're weighing up your options and wondering, should I sell the property now or should I rent it for a little bit and then sell it into the future? So the first thing you really need to work out is how much the property would actually rent for per week. So looking around at comparable rental properties, what are properties actually renting for and what are you likely to achieve for your property if you were to put it on the rental market? From here you can work out what your actual costs of holding the property are. So that's interest repayments, insurance, council rates, and a really big one to keep in mind is maintenance. So weighing up those outgoings to arrive at what that property would actually make you per week or what it would actually cost you to hold on to. So to run a bit of an example, your property, for instance, may rent out for $400 per week, and we know the total cost of holding on to that property is around $425. To give you a quick bit of a breakdown of the numbers you should be looking at, have a look to the side. But let's say that the property costs you $425 a week to hold on to and rents for $400 per week. Now it's important to note here that your property is not going to be rented out 52 weeks of the year on year. So let's work on a rental, say, of 50 weeks out of the year, 2 weeks a year it sits vacant. So the total cost to hold on to that property will be $22,100 per year, and the total income will only be $20,000 per annum. So essentially, to hold on to this hypothetical property is going to cost you $2,100 a year. So if you are deciding to rent it out for 12 months and then sell it in 12 months time, know that doing so is going to cost you an extra $2,000 a year that you really need to take into consideration when looking at if the market's going to increase. Now obviously every property and every situation is going to be different. Some properties may be returning a profit, which then you can take into consideration, and some properties may be taking an even bigger loss than that per year. So that's a really important factor when deciding whether you should sell your property now or rent it out for 6 or 12 months and then sell it then. Like I say, this is just a hypothetical, those numbers I just run through, so really crunch down and work out exactly what your property will cost you or make you each year if you decide to hold on to it and sell it into the future. Now my stance here is if a property is going to cost you money each year to hold on to, you're actually better off selling it, cutting your losses and moving on. Now obviously there's some situations where this changes and we'll get to them at the end of the video, so make sure you stick around and watch to the end. The next step to really working out whether you should be holding on to the property in the short term or selling it straight away is to work out how much equity you have in the property and what your actual cash flow as a percentage is of this equity position. So let's say that you've got a $300,000 worth of equity tied up in a home and that's generating $10,000 a year cash flow. Now just some quick maths, it works out about, works out about a 3.3% return on your actual cash you have in that property. Now in my books, if you're getting less than a 10% return, is it actually worth holding on to? It's really up to you to decide that, but working out what your return is as a percentage of the equity you have in that property will really help paint a clearer picture as to if that property is worth holding on to. The other question that needs to be asked is, having that equity left in that property, is that the best use of that equity? Now personally, when I'm going out and looking at property deals, I'm looking at getting around a 15 to 20% return on what my actual cash outlay is. So that's if I invest $40,000, I'm wanting to get a $10,000 or a $15,000 return on that $40,000. So that gives you a bit of a guidance, especially when it comes to property investing, as you are leveraging that money upwards. The next thing you need to take into consideration is that the property's never going to present as well as when you're living in it. When you're living in the property as a homeowner, think about how often you're heading off to Bunnings, working in the garden, touching up little things. Realistically, I know personally, I probably spend at least a weekend a month working on my home. So over a year, that's a lot of time and effort that you do put into maintaining your own property. And now even the very, very best tenants aren't going to treat the property with this sort of upkeep and maintenance than what you would yourself. So if you do decide to rent out the home for a 12-month period, it's important to keep in mind that it's not going to present as well at the end of that 12 months as what it would if you lived in the property yourself. So keep that in mind. Obviously presentation makes a huge difference when it comes to selling a property. And the same goes for having a vacant property versus selling one that's furniture in it, especially if that furniture is appealing. Is another reason why it might be beneficial to sell while you're actually living in the property versus having it tenanted, vacating the property, and then selling a vacant home. So on the flip side to this is considerations why you should actually rent the property out for a period of time before you sell it. Now the first one is if the property does have a strong cash flow position. If you are earning 10, 15, 20,000, depending on the price point of that property, it may be worth holding onto it for that cash flow potential. You may not have a better investment opportunity than what your home actually offers you and turning into an investment property. So once again, running the numbers will really help you see that as a clear picture. The other consideration is looking at what property prices in an area are doing. If an area is absolutely booming, prices are going up 10, 15, 20%, it may be worth holding on to the property. A $400,000 property increasing by 10% a year is an extra $40,000 that you would gain from that property by holding onto it for 12 months. But that's only if an area is absolutely booming. If things don't look so great for an area, you might lose 5 or 10% in a year, which once again on a $400,000 property might result in a 40 grand loss over a 12-month period. So, that's a really important factor to look at. And I personally believe if an area is not looking like it's booming, if you're not looking like you're going to get that extreme growth, and you're not having a strong cash flow on the property, you really more than likely will be better off cutting your losses with that property in the near term versus selling it into the future. Now, once again, every market's different, every person's situation's different, so it's really important to look at that individual property, the cash flow potential, how that property is going to present into the future, and what the market's likely to do in that area. So now that you have taken those different factors into consideration, it's easy to move what can be quite an emotional decision, being whether to sell now or sell later, into something that's really analytical, that you can almost put into a spreadsheet and work out exactly what it's going to be, the benefit or the cost of holding that property for another 6, 12, 18 months, 2 years, and move that decision from that emotional decision into something based in logic and analytics, essentially. Now, if you have enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. It helps us get these videos out to more people. And if you want to see more, make sure you subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and have a fantastic week.